What does this signal to you? Does it actually tell us anything about the likelihood this becomes permanent rather than lower courts potentially deciding this can't go forward?
Well, I think that's right. I mean, look, what we're watching here is something that actually is in the president's power. Unlike a lot of the other things that he's done, this is certainly something that Joe Biden had set up before. The problem with it is it's just mean and nasty. What they're doing is they're taking people that actually have real problems back home, whatever country they came from. They're concerned about their lives. They came here because the countries are run by dictators, hoodlums and hoods, and their lives are in danger. And so he's just looking for big numbers to send people back. He doesn't care who he sends back as long as he's got big numbers. And I think the Supreme Court recognized that this is within his power because it was set up by a president. So there's really not a lot they can do about it. You had a dissent by two of the justices today, Jackson and Sotomayor. And I think, you know, what it really comes down to is he's just being rotten and nasty.
I mean, we're assuming that they're going to be sent back to the countries they fled. To your point, with oppressive regimes, they could end up somewhere else based on what we've seen with this administration.
That's right.
Setting up a whole other court case that we'll talk to Nick Akerman about. But we knew already that this White House was looking to increase the monthly quota of deportations. Does this help them fulfill it?
Well, sure. You got 300,000 right out of the bat, right? I mean, he's been trying to do these onesies, twosies all over the place.
So this is your mass deportation, Nick.
That's right. This is the mass deportation. People who came here, they were invited here, they were vetted out before they even got here. They have jobs, they're parts of communities across the country. These are the people, he said, were eating the dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio.
Wow.
I mean, it's just outrageous. I mean, it's not who we are. That's the problem. We're the United States of America, and this makes us look really mean and nasty.
Well, and regardless of the kind of spirit or how you want to characterize this, you are saying that he does have legal justification for taking this action. There's been question about his justifications legally for doing the same without due process for other individuals. Cases it feels like we have lost track of as they've kind of slow rolled through the lower courts, be it the Abrego Garcia case or others when we're considering the Judge Boasberg cases that he was overseeing. What are we looking for next in those cases around this entire question of due process? Because the Supreme Court has said due process is warranted in some
That's right. I mean, there's at least 3 people who have been sent over there that everybody acknowledges were not part of any gang, Venezuelan or otherwise, or had committed any kind of criminal activity. And Trump has even acknowledged that he could bring the person back, even though the Garcia case, he could bring Garcia back, even though he acknowledges, yeah, he could make a phone call to the president of El Salvador, and Trump would be back in a nanosecond. I mean, Garcia would be back in a nanosecond. So, again, they're just trying to keep the numbers up. They're trying to be as mean and nasty as possible. They think in some way this is going to dissuade others from coming to this country. The problem is it not only dissuades immigrants from coming to this country, it dissuades people who are tourists, it dissuades students, it dissuades all kinds of people that are major portions of our economy. I mean, it's destroying all other aspects of American life. And what he's trying to do is just rack up numbers and trying to get publicity.
To your point, though, as our legal analyst in this conversation, he is doing nothing illegal here, correct?
Well, he is.
Kailey asked a question about due process. Will this group of 500,000 people get an interview before they leave?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, this is part of the power of the president. Joe Biden was able to use his power to bring all those people in. And the same way, he could have used his power to kick all these people out. So this is not like a number of other cases that are out there where the president has basically taken over powers of Congress, taken over situations where Congress has legislated money for specific programs that he's cut out, which he cannot do. Those are the kind of cases that are going to get up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to rule that he has no power to do that, including on the tariffs. I mean, that's the other big issue that came out this week.
Well, Nick, you read my mind because we want to talk about that. We did hear from President Trump responding to the legal back and forth on his tariff agenda. This is what he said in the Oval Office this afternoon.
If we didn't have that power of tariffs, we would economically be destroyed as a country because they will destroy us. Other countries will destroy us with unchecked tariffs. We can check them when we have the use. They tried to take that power away from us, and if you take that power away, we're not going to have a country. We won't have an economically viable country.
Of course, the tariffs are still in place thanks to an appeals court while the appellate process plays out. But this all comes down to what he can actually justify using IEEPA for.
That's right.
Do you see it as justified in the way in which this administration has tried?
Absolutely not. I mean, actually have 4 judges in the last couple of days that ruled that he can't do it. You had the International Court of Trade that said that these were illegal. They looked at it from one aspect. You had a district court judge in D.C. who said that that tariffs weren't even included in IEEPA, that they have nothing to do with tariffs. The International Court of Trade said that this is not, even though they didn't address whether tariffs could actually be brought, he said the tariffs here were way out of whack with what they could do, what the president can do. That the emergency that he's claiming, which is the fentanyl importation into the U.S., have absolutely nothing to do with the tariffs. I mean, even the idea that all of these countries he's put tariffs on, he is not negotiating with them about fentanyl. That's got nothing to do with it. He's negotiating about numbers. And that statute does not permit him to do it. If you look at that, there's nothing in there about tariffs, nothing about the president having that power. In fact, no other president since 1977, when this was first enacted, has ever used that statute for tariffs.
Yeah, how about that? So we're in a world now, and I wonder what the former Watergate prosecutor inside of you thinks when you hear about not only impeaching judges, but this daily reference to unelected judges. What is the White House trying to do?
Oh, they're trying to basically make the judiciary look small. They're trying to make it look as though they're taking over from the president. The fact of the matter is the judiciary is the only check that we've got right now on President Trump. I mean, they're the only ones that are actually standing up and doing something.
It is the foil to this administration.
Right. And so what he's trying to do is make it appear to the public that these judges are acting out of school, that they're not doing what they're supposed to do, when in fact they're doing precisely what they're supposed to do. And I think part of the reason why the Supreme Court didn't go along with Justice Jackson and Sotomayor today is because they know they're going to have some cases where they're going to have to rein this guy in, and they're going to have to tell him he doesn't have the power to institute these tariffs. He doesn't have the power to take money that's been appropriated by Congress and stop it from going to various places. And he's got no power to try and take over Harvard University. I mean, that's the other thing that he's doing. What president of the United States has ever written a letter to a university and said that we want to monitor who you're accepting, who you're hiring for teachers, and what courses you're taking? And oh, by the way, we also want to put a monitor in there who will actually check on all of this stuff. I mean, it is so outrageous that the judge had no qualms yesterday. 20 minutes, the whole hearing was 20 minutes, and she entered a preliminary injunction. And I'm sure it's not going to take much longer to enter a summary judgment on that case.
Well, we'll be continuing to watch for developments in that case, all of the cases that we've just spoken about. But we're also next week going to be watching for developments from Capitol Hill and progress on the one big, beautiful bill that is, in its heart, supposed to be a tax and spending package, but does have other things embedded in it, some of which have implications for the judiciary. I know you're watching.
Oh, absolutely. There is one little item in that one big, beautiful bill that basically would take away the judge's contempt power to enforce temporary restraining orders and preliminary injunctions. And not only does it make it prospective, meaning that it would be used in the future, it also is including past actions of contempt. So you've got judges that are considering contempt with respect to the Garcia matter. They're considering attempt on a number of other items. You've got 170 orders that are out there right now by federal district court judges. And the only way that they can have any power to enforce these orders is to be able to use the contempt power. And what they're trying to do, the Republicans snuck this little piece into the bill in the dead of night, literally, to make it so that you give immunity to all of these people, all of Trump's minions and sycophants who have been basically undermining the judges and obstructing these judges' orders. You've got the situation in Maryland with Abrego Garcia, where the judge is trying to do an investigation. All of that would be thrown out if this piece of the bill passed. And what they try and do is try and make it look like it's part of the reconciliation by talking about the money that's being spent by the judges to enforce their orders, when in fact, all they're trying to do is destroy the judiciary and take away their powers.